I purchased my GoPro Hero 3 Black Edition several weeks ago. I've been using it to shoot numerous indoor and outdoor sporting events along with my Panasonic GH2 Micro Four Thirds camera. This video will attempt to show you how to best set up your GoPro 3 for use with sporting events like the ones I shoot. If you like this video, please rate it and subscribe to my channel if you want to see other videos like it. The GoPro 3 Black offers several new video resolution and frame rate modes that the previous GoPro models don't have. Now it can shoot video with a 4K resolution at 15 frames per second or 12 frames per second and a 2.7K resolution at 30 frames per second or 24 frames per second. The 4K setting is fine for detail, however the slower frame rate causes the video to be a little more choppy. The 2.7K at 30 frames per second video mode is my favorite. If you enable protune, it will increase the shadow exposure and really flatten out the overall image exposure. The only drawback is the noise is a little more prevalent. Interestingly, the noise in the 4K mode is even greater than in the 2.7K protune mode. It appears that the slight bit of scaling that the GoPro does to get from 4K to 2.7K really masks the noise that shows up when using protune. If you have to only choose one resolution to shoot with on the GoPro, then use the 2.7K mode. It delivers the best overall image with the smoothest motion. Luckily, the GoPro 3 Black comes with a handy remote that can be used to change the resolutions and the frame rates. The remote works great, however the battery life of the remote is not good. Mine dies in less than an hour. In addition, charging the camera battery also has some issues. I have had my camera freeze up while charging the battery. The only way to correct this issue is to remove the battery and then reinstall it. Luckily, the new frame casing allows easy access to the battery, and you can charge it without taking the camera out of the housing. Another thing that is different about the new GoPro 3 Black is that the front light always stays on even after the battery is done charging. Now the light on the back will blink if the camera is fully charged. If you plug your camera in to charge the battery and the back light begins to blink, then you know it is fully charged. If the backlight is partially lit, then the camera is probably frozen and the battery needs to be removed and then reinserted before it will start again. The 1080p at 60 frames per second medium angle of view with protune mode is probably my second favorite mode. It offers very fluid motion for slow motion, and it offers great resolution without any artifacts. The only disappointing resolution I have found so far is the 720p at 120 frames per second mode. If you use it without protune, you can select the narrow angle of view, which eliminates aliasing and other artifacts. However, the poor dynamic range in the camera means almost all shadow details will be lost in that mode. If you enable protune with the 120 frames per second mode, the noise will be excessive and you will be limited to the ultra-wide angle, which makes scaling artifacts very apparent. Honestly, 60 frames per second is sufficient for good slow motion. I would recommend using the 1080p at 60 frames per second mode for most slow motion, and only use the 720p at 120 frames per second modes with very good lighting and with extreme fast motion. I typically leave my camera set up with the 2.7K at 30 frames per second as the default mode with protune, and the 720p at 120 frames per second as the default mode without protune. Then I can switch back and forth by enabling or disabling protune. It takes a lot longer to switch resolutions than it does to enable or disable protune, especially with the remote. The buttons on the camera can change the settings much faster than the remote can. If your camera freezes because of the battery charging issue, then it will usually reset your defaults. If you suddenly notice that your default resolution is 1440, then you will need to reselect your protune and non-protune default modes again. I shoot mostly with my GoPro 3 mounted directly on top of my Panasonic GH2 camera. That enables me to simultaneously capture a wide field of view with the GoPro and a narrow field of view with the GH2. In ultra-wide mode, the GoPro has a field of view approximately equivalent to a 15mm lens on a 35mm camera. The medium angle of view is about 20mm and the narrow is equivalent to approximately 28mm. Let me know in the comments below how you like your new GoPro 3 cameras. If you don't have one already, what are you waiting for?